I have lived 16 summers, and in all that time, the sea has never stopped whispering questions. Its breath shapes the land, carving the sand beneath my feet, just as time shapes our people. I am Naya of the Patuxet village, daughter of Wusamequin, a respected gatherer of sweetgrass and skins, and granddaughter of Wampanoag protectors, stretching farther back than memory can hold. Our lands stretch where the salt wind greets the pines, and where the rivers dance freely into the ocean. This has always been our home. The ancestors guide us like stars. These whispers changed. The waters churned strange, fevered, and then it came. A floating giant. One morning, while collecting quahog shells with my little brother Toma, we saw the behemoth rising from the horizon like a wounded whale carrying trees upon its back, towering sticks with woven skins snapping wildly against the wind. It groaned as waves struck its belly, creeping closer to our shores without permission. Toma pointed, mouth agape. "No," I said, though fear raced beneath my skin like startled rabbits. "Spirits move with grace. This thing struggles." We ran back to the village. Our Sachem, Wusamequin, whom the strangers later called Massasoit, our great leader, gathered the council. Warriors armed themselves with bows and stone knives, each step quiet but heavy with worry. These newcomers were like others our people have seen, sickly pale, wrapped in heavy cloth, lost souls with weapons that spit thunder, but this time they came in larger numbers, stumbling onto our shores, desperate and confused. At first we watched from the tree line, eyes sharp, silence loud. We had learned caution the hard way. Others like them had taken our kin before enslaved, stolen, vanished across the ocean. My uncle, Copan, was among them. That is a wound our spirits still hold. The women murmured prayers. The children stayed close to their mother's skirts, and I stood with them, fists tight, feeling the air shift, as if history inhaled and waited to exhale. Days passed. We watched them build poor shelters. We saw them cough through the nights, their breaths rattling like cracked gourds. Hunger gnawed their bones. Their numbers were thinning. The land was punishing their ignorance. One morning, I followed my grandmother, Sun Eyes, to gather cattails by the marsh. She moved slowly, humming the old songs. But then she stopped and looked toward the settlers' crude village. "They are people," she said with a sigh. "Even lost wolves deserve a chance to learn where they are." Her wisdom pierced me. I wanted to be angry, but my heart softened like thawing ice. The next day, the English, yes, we learned that word, fired their thunder weapon into the sky. A loud, angry crack. A show of force or a desperate plea. We did not yet know. Toma clung to me. I swallowed fear as if it were thick mud. Then came Samoset, a man from the Abenaki who carried the courage of 10 warriors. He strode forward alone, unarmed, into the heart of danger. The settlers froze, eyes wide as he spoke their tongue. "Welcome," he said. "Welcome, Englishmen." The sky seemed to stop moving. Even the waves listened. From that moment, everything changed. Soon after Tisquantum, the settlers called him Squanto, returned to these lands. A man with painful history etched into his soul. He had crossed the ocean, endured chains and loss, only to return home and find his village, my village's sister, wiped out by sickness brought by strangers. Patuxet was a ghost, its fires cold. Yet, instead of turning away, he chose to help them survive. When Tisquantum spoke with us around the night fire, the glow revealed both strength and grief in his eyes. "If they die," he said quietly, "the spirits of Patuxet gain no peace. If they live and learn, perhaps balance can return." Balance. That word echoed in my chest. There were many disagreements. Some wanted to help. Others wanted to force them back into the sea. Trust is not a thing easily given. especially after so many betrayals. Yet, in the end, our sachem made a bold decision. We would seek peace. We would watch closely. But we would extend a hand. The first meeting was arranged. My role was simple. Observe. Listen. Remember. A young woman's eyes see truths that warriors sometimes miss. My grandmother said I carried curiosity like a torch, bright and dangerous. As we approached, drums quieted. My pulse thundered. The settlers stood stiffly, clutching their odd tools. Their eyes were sky-colored and fearful, though they tried to hide it behind stern brows. Massasoit stepped forward with dignity, wrapped in furs, his face a calm ocean. Beside him, Tisquantum spoke the words that stitched two worlds together. We come for understanding. We come for peace. And for the first time since the giant ship arrived, the air loosened. But I could not stop staring at one of the strangers, a young Englishman not much older than me. His hands trembled as he accepted our corn, as if he feared it might bite him. When he looked up, our eyes met. His gaze was not sharp or cold. It was lost, tired. We were from different worlds divided by oceans, beliefs, and scars. Yet there, in that fleeting moment, I felt something I could not explain. Maybe it was simply hope. That evening, as the sun dipped below the pines, a treaty was spoken, uneasy but real, a promise to protect one another. The settlers returned to their village, clutching seeds we gifted them, seeds of survival. We walked home full of cautious breaths. The sea roared loud that night, as if proud or warning us. I sat alone beneath the stars, my grandmother's words whispering through the wind. They are people. My chest felt heavy, but also bright, because although danger still lingers like shadows behind trees, a new path has been chosen, one that could lead to unity or sorrow. But the first step has been taken. And so my story begins. Trust, like the first green shoot after winter, is fragile. Days after our first meeting, Tisquantum began teaching the settlers how to live with this land instead of against it, where to plant corn, how to bury fish for nourishment, which paths the deer favor. I often watched from a distance, curiosity chewing away at caution. Every morning I saw him, the young English man. His movements were clumsy yet determined. When birds scattered from the fields, he would curse the sky under his breath. And when Tisquantum spoke, he listened as though each word might save him. Weeks passed before fate finally forced us near. It was late afternoon, the forest dappled in gold. I was collecting wintergreen leaves when a sharp snap echoed behind me. I spun, hand gripping my knife. The English boy stumbled into view, breathing hard, eyes wild in panic. "Please," he gasped, lifting his hands. No weapon. I studied his face, ready to dart away like a hare, but something in his eyes stopped me again. The same lost desperation I saw the day of the treaty. He pointed shakily toward the woods behind him. A moment later, I smelled it, Bear. Before I could speak, the creature emerged. A black mass of muscle and hunger. The settlers feared thunder weapons so much they rarely brought them far. Today, he had none. And I was the only thing standing between him and death. My heartbeat pounded in my bones. Every instinct screamed to flee. But another voice surged louder, the one my grandmother planted in me. They are people. I loaded my bow, pulling the string until it trembled like my breath. The arrow found its mark, just above the beast's shoulder. The bear roared, furious but wounded. Another shot to drive it back. It retreated, crashing through brush, leaving shaking silence behind. I steadied my breathing. The boy stared, stunned. "You," he whispered, "saved me." His voice cracked like thin ice. For a moment, we simply breathed the same frightening air. "My name." He struggled with the introduction, hand over his chest. "Elias." I hesitated. To give a name is to reveal part of the spirit. But I spoke anyway. Naya. He tried to repeat it softly, carefully like a fragile secret. Yeah. The sound sent a strange flutter through my chest, then voices erupted in the distance. Englishmen crashed through the trees, some carrying those thunder sticks. They grabbed Elias and pushed me back, shouting words I could not understand. One raised his weapon toward me. Elias stumbled forward, shouting, arms wide, "No, she helped me!" The man's glare burned like fire. He lowered his weapon, but not his suspicion. He barked harsh words and shoved Elias ahead. Before leaving, he cast one final warning glance at me, a promise of danger. Elias looked back just once, gratitude in his eyes, fear in mine. Later that night, a council fire roared high. Warriors argued, anger sharp as arrows. "They threaten our children. They carry sickness, misfortune. They will take what they want from these lands." My father stood tense, jaw set like stone. I sat behind him, silent, heart still racing with the memory of steel pointed at me. Massasoit spoke at last, deep and thunderous voice. "We have chosen peace. Peace demands courage. But peace also demands risk." When the council dismissed, my grandmother pulled me aside. "You crossed into danger today," she said sternly, yet her eyes dark, wise, softened. "And you learned something." I nodded, "that the settlers fear us as much as we fear them." She smiled sadly. "Fear is the mother of foolish choices." The next morning, I found a small bundle placed carefully on the edge of the field, where forest meets their land, wrapped in cloth so rough it scratched my fingers. Inside, a crude wooden carving of a bird. Wings spread as if trying to escape the blocky shape of the wood. Carved by uncertain hands but full of effort. A message clearer than any spoken. "Thank you. And maybe I want to understand. I should have left it. Boundaries keep us safe." But I tucked it inside my pouch before my mind could stop my hands. And that night, I returned a gesture. I left a simple corn husk bracelet woven tight with careful fingers upon the same rock. Still, danger lurked, growing like a hidden root. Some settlers eyed us with hunger not for food, but land. Some of our young warriors whispered of striking first before betrayal could bloom. And I kept thinking of his eyes, his fear. His hand reaching out to stop danger meant for me, one world pulling me forward, another holding tight behind. I walked the border between them both alone. Everything changed again when a warning arrived. A runner from Nauset territory burst into camp, breath ragged with urgency. He spoke of English aggression, of stolen grain, of kidnapped children, tension spreading like wildfire down the coastline. "If they harm one village, they will harm another," he warned. Our warriors prepared for the worst. Spears sharpened, bows strung. Shadows filled the night. I looked toward the settlers' dim lanterns in the distance and felt a cold dread. Which side would Elias stand on, if fear demanded blood? Which side would I? That night, sleep refused me. I walked alone to the cliff overlooking the settlers' village, their small fires flickering like uncertain stars. I did not hear him approach. Elias stepped into the moonlight, hands empty, expression troubled. "I shouldn't be here," he whispered. "Then why come?" I asked, though I already knew. He looked at me not with fear, but with worry that mirrored my own. "There are men among my people, men who want to force your tribe to kneel. They think your land should be ours." Shame lowered his voice. "I'm not them, but I can't stop them." His honesty struck harder than any blow. "You walk between two fires," I said quietly. He nodded, shoulders shaking under the weight. "So do you." For the first time, his fingers brushed mine barely. A spark, so tiny yet powerful, leapt between us. Hope or disaster. I could not tell. The wind cut cold. Danger circled like wolves. We both stepped back. Too close. Too soon. Elias swallowed, voice tight. If something happens, promise you'll run. I straightened. And leave my people. My home? I shook my head. I do not run. His eyes glimmered with something fierce. Fear. Admiration. Maybe both. Before he disappeared into the dark, he said one last thing. I will try to protect you. I watched his silhouette fade, heart pounding as if trapped between ribs of iron. Because I already knew the truth. Soon, the fragile peace would shatter, and the line between friend and enemy, lover and betrayer, would be drawn in the soil of this land. A storm was coming. The feast had not yet been imagined, only the fight for survival. And I, Naya, was tangled in the roots of both fates. The cold winds of autumn arrived, sharp and honest. Leaves turned to fire, then drifted down like embers of a fading season. Winter's breath was approaching, hungry and merciless. But this time, the settlers were not starving. We had shown them where to fish and how to plant, how to gather wild foods and respect the living spirit of this land. And though some settlers still carried anger like a hidden blade, others carried gratitude. Elias stood among them alive, stronger, less afraid. We met in stolen moments, sometimes under the birch trees, sometimes by the marsh. He told me stories of the world across the sea of cities, made of stone that touched the sky, and ships so large they dwarfed the forests. But his eyes always softened when he looked toward our village. This place, he said once, tracing the air as if painting the horizon, feels like how life is supposed to be. I smiled, but sadness lingered like a shadow. Peace must be protected, I told him. It does not grow wild. It must be planted, or it dies. His fingers brushed mine brief as a passing bird. Then we will plant it, he whispered. In that moment, I believed him. But harmony is always tested. One morning, a loud argument tore through the settler village. A group of Englishmen accused our hunters of stealing tools. Our warriors argued it was an English youth who had wandered too far and dropped them. Voices escalated. Hands reached for weapons. If a single arrow flew, war would ignite. Massasoit arrived swiftly, his presence a steady mountain. He offered deer meat and corn as a peace gesture more than fair for a misunderstanding. The English governor hesitated, pride choking his words. Elias, breathing hard, stepped into the tension. He told the truth, in front of everyone, that it was his own men who misplaced their tools, that we had done no wrong. The governor's anger turned inward. He apologized, reluctantly, but enough. Danger retreated like a storm passing over. I met Elias's eyes from across the clearing. He had protected us, not just me. That evening, the English invited us to a great meal, a feast to honor the harvest and the fragile peace we had forged together. A celebration of survival. We gathered deer, quail, nuts, pumpkins. The settlers shared what they had hunted, wild fowl, and the few sweet treats they had left from their stores. Fires crackled, sending sparks toward the rising moon. Drums and laughter stirred the air for the first time since they arrived. Music binds all people, even those who share no words. Children played together Toma, chasing English boys with feathers stuck in his hair. Women exchanged curious glances over cooking pots. Warriors sat alert, but their shoulders eased slowly. Elias approached me through the glow of firelight. You look. He paused, searching for a word that crossed both our languages. Strong, he finally said, smiling through a blush. I laughed softly. Strength comes from knowing you protect more than yourself. He nodded. Then perhaps we are both strong now. He offered me a piece of bread, strange, dense, but warm. I shared a slice of roast venison. He tasted it and blinked in delight. This may be the best thing I've ever eaten, he said. It was a gift from the land, I answered. All gifts must be returned someday. The dancing began light steps around the fire, swirling skirts, proud feet stomping in rhythm. Elias looked uncertain, awkward, but I took his hand. His breath caught, and we moved together, two lives guided by the same drum for a fleeting heartbeat in time. For once, no one glared. No one reached for weapons. The fire lit all faces the same color, warm, human, alive. It was peace. Not perfect. Not promised. But real. Later, when the music quieted and the stars opened like 1,000 watchful eyes, Elias and I walked to the edge of the woods. The world felt gentle, wrapped in night's embrace. "I don't know what the future brings," Elias said, voice trembling with truth. "There are some among my people who dream of owning everything they see, and others who dream of belonging." "And which are you?" I asked. His hand reached up, hovering near my cheek, but not touching until I nodded. His fingertips were cold, but they set a warmth loose inside me. "I want to belong," he said. I laid my forehead against his, a gesture of trust, a promise. "You belong," I whispered. We stood there, suspended in the breath between what was and what would be. When I returned to my family, my grandmother looked at me with knowing eyes. She read secrets written on my face as easily as tracks in fresh snow. "The heart is a river," she murmured. "Do not let it drown you, but do not dam its flow." I leaned into her shoulder, the scent of sage and smoke comforting. "Will this peace last?" I asked. She kissed my hair. "For now, and now is everything." I listened to the silent stars, wondering if they already knew what history would later forget. That this night was a miracle. That two worlds once touched gently. That once, before conquest and grief, there was a moment where love and friendship bloomed like wildflowers between strangers. And though the future would bring storms, heartbreak, loss of land and lives, I will always remember us under the firelight. My people, his people, together, equal, hopeful. A new dawn born from shared hunger and open hearts. Because peace too is a harvest, and this is where ours began.